Information processing theory is a cognitive approach that explains how humans take in, store, and retrieve information, similar to how a computer processes data. This theory describes learning and memory as a sequence of steps, including encoding, storage, and retrieval. Encoding involves processing new information, storage refers to keeping that information in memory, and retrieval is the ability to access it when needed. The theory also distinguishes between different types of memory, such as sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory, each playing a role in how people retain and recall information. Information processing theory is widely used in education and psychology to understand how learning occurs. Now let's look at some examples of how this theory applies in real life. One example of information processing theory is a student learning a new math formula. First, they pay attention to the teacher's explanation, sensory memory, then rehearse the formula in their mind, short-term memory, and eventually store it for future use through repeated practice, long-term memory. Another example is reading a book where individuals recognize letters and words, process their meanings, and store important information for later recall. A third example is remembering a phone number for a short time by repeating it out loud. If the number is used frequently, it may move into long-term memory, making it easier to recall in the future. Now let's examine some strengths of information processing theory. One strength of information processing theory is that it provides a clear and structured explanation of how learning and memory work. By breaking the process into stages, it helps researchers and educators understand how information moves from one type of memory to another. Another strength is that it emphasizes the importance of attention and practice in learning. Since information must be processed actively to be remembered, the theory highlights effective strategies such as repetition and organization. Additionally, information processing theory has been supported by research on memory and cognitive development, making it a useful model for improving teaching methods and study techniques. However, despite its strengths, the theory also has some weaknesses. One weakness of information processing theory is that it compares human thinking to a computer, which may oversimplify the complexity of the brain. Unlike computers, human memory is influenced by emotions, experiences, and personal meaning, which the theory does not fully address. Another limitation is that the theory focuses mainly on individual cognitive processes rather than the social and cultural factors that influence learning. For example, learning is often shaped by interactions with others, but information processing theory does not emphasize this aspect. Additionally, the theory does not explain why some information is remembered effortlessly, while other details are forgotten quickly, suggesting that other factors beyond simple processing stages play a role in memory retention. Now let's consider some alternative theories. One alternative to information processing theory is constructivist learning theory, which suggests that people learn by actively building knowledge through experience and social interaction. Instead of viewing the mind as a storage system, this theory focuses on how individuals create meaning based on their personal experiences. Another alternative is the dual coding theory, which proposes that people process information through both verbal and visual systems, making learning more effective when words and images are combined. A third alternative is connectionism, which views learning as a process of forming networks of associations in the brain rather than following a strict sequence of stages. While information processing theory provides valuable insights into memory and learning, these alternatives offer different perspectives on how knowledge is acquired and retained.